900 plates. That is what one farmhouse kitchen in the hills of southern Italy turns out every single month. 3 meals a day for a family of 10, cooked by a woman who turned 79 in March. We will call her Nonna Lucia, because that is what everyone in the village calls her anyway. Her pantry holds 20 ingredients, counted, written in pencil on the inside of the cupboard door. But here is the part her own grandchildren cannot explain. Nobody at that table eats the same dinner twice in a week, and the food never, ever runs out. So what are the 20? Flour, and a lot of it. Olive oil from a cousin's trees. Tomatoes she jarred herself back in August, lined up in the cellar like ammunition. Dried beans. Onions, garlic, potatoes, carrots, celery. Eggs from 6 hens in the yard. A wheel of hard sheep's cheese. Salted anchovies. Lemons from the tree by the gate. Wine. Yesterday's bread, which she counts as an ingredient and will defend fiercely. Salt. Sugar. The wild greens she pulls from the field behind the house. A slab of cured pork fat that gets shaved rather than sliced. And 1 cheap cut of meat. The only thing she buys fresh once a week from the same butcher she has argued with since 1988. That is the entire arsenal. 20 items against 900 plates. To understand how that could possibly work, you have to know where she learned it. Lucia was born in 1947, into the lean years after the war, when the south of Italy fed itself on what food writers now romanticize as cucina povera, the cooking of the poor. Her mother raised 8 children on less than Lucia has today, and none of the lessons were written down. They were absorbed, standing on a chair at the stove, getting her knuckles wrapped for pouring out the water the pasta had boiled in. That water carried starch. Starch thickens tomorrow's soup. Pour it away, and you have poured away food. And in 1954, in that house, you did not pour away food. Every trick she runs today traces back to that single rule. Watch what she does with flour alone. On Monday it becomes orecchiette, little ears of pasta rolled and flicked off a knife with her thumb. 300 of them before her coffee has gone cold. Midweek, the same sack turns into bread, 2 enormous loaves baked together so the oven's heat is never spent on a single job. Later she makes frizzelle, rings baked twice over until they are hard enough to knock on, because twice-baked bread keeps for weeks without a freezer. And when a loaf finally goes stale anyway, she grates it, toasts the crumbs in olive oil with garlic and 1 melted anchovy, and rains them over pasta. Cooks in Puglia have a name for that dish. Poor man's cheese. 1 sack of flour just became 4 different suppers, and she has not opened a cookbook once in 60 years. But flour tricks alone will not carry 10 people through 30 days, and this is where the real machine shows itself, because the machine is the week. Sunday is the engine. A single pot of ragu goes onto the fire at 7 in the morning and murmurs there for 5 hours, and Sunday lunch is only the first thing it pays for. The sauce dresses Monday's pasta. The meat, shredded fine, gets folded with egg and stale bread into polpette for Tuesday. The bone sinks into Wednesday's bean soup and gives it a depth beans could never manage alone. Even the fat skimmed off the top waits in a jar by the stove to start Thursday's cooking. By Friday, that 1 Sunday pot has fed the family 5 separate times, and nobody has said the word leftovers, because nothing on that table ever appears twice wearing the same face. Now add the audience, because 10 mouths is its own problem. The ages at her table run from 6 to 82. That means one dish has to satisfy a first grader who distrusts anything green, and a son-in-law who fancies himself a critic. Her fix is ruthless. Everyone gets the same food, and the food gets no apology. Does the 6-year-old actually eat it? Every time, and the village finds this hilarious because half the mothers in it cannot get their kids to touch a bean. Her secret there is embarrassingly simple. The children are in the kitchen. A child who spent the morning flicking orecchiette off a knife blade will defend that pasta at the table like he invented it. Then the 3rd week of the month arrives, and the cellar starts to thin. The tomato jars get counted before they get opened. The cheese wheel is down to its rind. This is the stretch where an ordinary kitchen would surrender and order pizza, and it is exactly where Lucia gets interesting. The cloudy water her beans cooked in, the liquid other kitchens pour down the drain, becomes the base of a soup so silky the family assumes there is cream in it. There has never been cream in it. The cheese rind goes into that pot and melts down to its last salty gram, and stale bread stops being an ingredient and becomes the whole dish. Hot water, olive oil, a torn tomato, salt, yesterday's loaf. In her dialect, it is called aquasale, and her grandchildren request it by name, the way other kids beg for chicken nuggets. Which brings us to the detail that took her own family years to notice, the one that turns this whole story on its head. Lucia is not poor, not anymore, and not for a long time. There is a supermarket 15 minutes down the hill. Her sons have offered again and again to fill the pantry with whatever she wants, and one of them once drove home with a second freezer as a surprise. She made him take it back. The 20-ingredient limit is hers. She chose it, she enforces it, and she guards it the way other cooks guard a recipe. Give a cook 200 ingredients, she says, and they will follow instructions. Give a cook 20, and they have to understand food. That understanding is what 900 plates a month actually runs on. There is a quieter reason, too, and she only says it when the kitchen has emptied out. She has been hungry. Real hunger. The 1950s kind. The kind that stays in a body for 70 years after the plates fill up. A pantry she jarred and counted herself can never be taken away by a bad harvest or a bad year. And the kitchen was never really a one-woman show. A grandson shells beans on the front step. A daughter-in-law hauls the August tomatoes down to the cellar. A neighbor trades 6 eggs for 1 warm loaf, and both women walk away certain they got the better end of the deal. 20 ingredients, it turns out, is enough to feed 10 people and half a street's worth of friendships. Here is the uncomfortable part. This machine costs 5 hours of her day, every day, and has for 60 years. Nobody younger has learned the whole system, and when she finally sets the spoon down, 20 ingredients go back to being groceries. So the question is bigger than dinner. Would you trade that much of your life for that kind of mastery? And could you last 1 week at her stove? Tell me in the comments which of her 20 you would keep if you could only keep 5. And stick around, because what this kitchen does every August, the week the tomatoes arrive by the 100-weight, deserves a story of its own. Word count, 1,300.